Hi, and welcome to Color Your Home Happy. I'm Justine, founder and creative mind behind Rainbow Shaker, a colorful interior design studio in London. My goal is to spread joy and happiness through the design of cheerful interiors. If, like me, you think that we need a colorful bubble to escape the daily gloom, then this podcast is definitely for you. Each episode, I will be welcoming well-known guests from various colorful backgrounds. You won't find us speaking about the right way to use colors. In this podcast, I want to help you trust your intuition and give you all the confidence you need when designing interiors full of dopamine. Hello everyone! Today we have an incredible duo that brings a burst of creativity to the design scene. Tania and Jason, known as Miss Pink and Mr. Black, the dynamic minds behind the East London design partnership Quirk and Rescue, showcased in London and New York. Their collaboration has given birth to a unique fusion of vibrant hues and timeless monochromes. Join us as we chat about their unique design journey and how they've turned spaces into masterpieces that resonate with emotion. So let's jump into the colorful world of Quirk and Rescue. Hi, Tania.
Hi, Justine.
How are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having us. Beautiful introduction.
Thank you. Do you have anything else you wanted to add about yourself, about Quirk and Rescue?
Not so much about Quirk and Rescue. So we've had a little segue lately. Mr. Black's been doing a lot of screen printing under the name Mr. Black Prints, and I've been doing a lot of interiors work under Miss Pink Interiors. So we're still Quirk and Rescue, but we each have sort of separate projects going at the moment. Yeah. So
we're doing lots of different things at the moment.
Yeah. That's always good to have a lot of variety.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting because you're both nourishing your own inspiration and creativity, and then you're gathering that.
I think there's sometimes as well, there's things that when we're sort of Quirk and Rescue, Miss Pink and Mr. Black, that there's things we can't always do together. Mm-hmm. Because they don't always fit into Quirk and Rescue. Whereas sometimes, it's better to do those things sort of separately. I need to get that out there.
Yeah, so Mr. Black Prints has a lot of really specific kind of styles of artwork. They're really, really fantastic, but we maybe don't use them in Quirk and Rescue. But Jason, for a long time, has liked certain kinds of styles.
That brings us to actually the first segment, which is to have completely different design styles. So how could you, in a few words, define your design style?
Individually or together?
Individually, and then...
Well, you go first then.
So I'm always drawn to colour. Full stop. Brighter the better, like the neon end of things, particularly pink and yellow like you've got on today, and a bit of red. You do like colour, but you like red and black.
Because I trained in textile design, so I'm much more interested in the graphical style of things. I've always liked Rel Dufay, that sort of hard graphic line. I'm into colour as well. I don't like pastels, which when we first met, you were quite heavily into pastels, which was... Yeah.
I still like pastels though. I know this is airing in February. We're recording it a little bit before then. I'm using some pastels in the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
With the neons.
But
that'll be temporary, so he can live with that.
I like all colours. But I definitely lean more on a graphical style rather than colours. I will use certain colours if I think it suits the project.
For me, I have colours that maybe I'm less comfortable using, or it doesn't bring me any emotion.
Bring you joy.
And it's hard to...
It just brings that feeling of, oh no, I've got to use that.
Does the pink and the black brings you any emotion? So I would say that pink is really...
Happy, joyful, yeah. I would say that to all colour. I mean, I'm not particularly into green and blue, but I'd rather see green and blue than beige or grey. All colour for me makes me happy, but I have my own personal favourites.
And do you have any fond memory attached to pink, like a childhood memory?
No, the funny thing is, till I was I'm in my 50s now, so until I was 40 something, I hated pink. I hated everything it stood for. Barbie, princess, pretty little girl, pink dresses. I hated all that when I was a kid because I didn't want to be labelled like that. Even as a small child, I was like... I didn't have any dolls. I didn't like any of that. So I really, really hated pink. And then suddenly I started loving it, embracing it even greatly. Up until that point, red and orange were my sort of go-to colours. I had red hair for many years, and then it's been pink for, I don't know, last...
Oh, God. I mean, you've had pink hair since I've known you.
Yeah, last 20, 25 years or something.
It's the same for me. I wasn't drawn to even colors before. And I don't know, one time in my life, I was like, full colors and connecting to my inner child. That's how I connected more with those bright colors. How about you, Jason?
I'm quite a simplistic person in some sense of those. I'm a primary colour person, but I don't like mudded colours.
Not the in-between.
Not very much an in-between person.
Yeah.
I've just been thinking about it just now, thinking, how much colour did I wear as a child? Probably not a huge amount, because I'm a real 70s child from a really sort of industrial area, and everything was sort of brown, beige, dirty, rusty, and I really don't like brown. I really don't like beige. I don't like any other things. So I think at the earliest opportunity, I was probably into sort of wearing blacks. I think in the 80s, I might have owned a pink T-shirt at one point. But I've always been into that sort of classic 80s colourway, which is white, grey, black and red. And I kind
Craftwork.
Craftworky sort of.
And with the red.
So I've kind of circled around that a lot. I like a bold pattern, and I like a single colour, and I like black. And I tend to gravitate towards having red, because red and black really stands out. For me, black it's a nice thing to wear, because any little bit of colour that you have next to it suddenly pops that much more. You know, sometimes you do, I know you'll hate me for saying this, but sometimes you do need a little bit of that black, or you need a little bit of that grey to make that colour stand up. You totally don't agree with that. I did say you would. But sometimes you do need that in a project or something like that to make
contrast.
For contrast, but not in and of itself. And don't get me wrong, I do like, a nice black lino cut or a nice black and white screen print, but that satisfies my graphic sensibilities rather than my colour sensibilities.
So from what I hear, you may have different color approach, but you both love patterns, geometric shapes.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
We both like bold.
Yeah, I mean, pink's never bothered me as a sort of colour. Like, I've never been against it. Pink is just light red. I keep on telling people. It's not anything new. We just gave it a special name. But as long as it's pretty bold and pretty bright and it's got pattern in there, that's all that we're really concerned about. You and I both like half-tone dot sort of graphics, that sort of texture and that sort of feel. But I mean, we have toyed around when we talked about Quirk and Rescue wallpapers at one point, doing just like a black and white monochrome collection at one point.
Because it probably would have been commercially more viable.
We've never done anything based on commerce.
No, we haven't.
I mean, I think one of the things with Quirk and Rescue is that we've always done things with it that we were happy with. We would never put anything out there that we wouldn't have in our own home.
It's not mainstream. No. Personal.
Yeah. I just think you're kind of selling your soul if you're doing something for the mainstream, which is okay for some people.
I mean, the thing is, there's a lot of mainstream out there.
That's why it's called mainstream. The main.
So why be more of the same? Commercially, it's maybe a lot harder in terms of earning money, but in terms of being true to what you want to do, it's a lot easier.
You stay true to yourself. You're not being someone you're not.
Though sometimes that does happen as well. I think you probably face that more with pink interiors than I probably do.
Yeah, but if you come to me, you're not coming to me because you want beige. You're going to somebody else for that kind of thing.
They know what they're going to get.
As you. Yeah, same as you. If you don't come to somebody called Rainbow Shaker if you just want neutral. I don't think.
I had people trying and I was like, no, this is not.
We all compromise to a certain extent anyway. You
can find a middle ground.
Compromising on your long-term style and what you want to do, it's just not worth it, because at the end of the day you have to wake up and live with yourself. I don't want to be thinking, people know me for this and I wasn't really invested in that piece of work.
Yeah, because it's a piece of yourself, so every time you're looking at it you'll be like, I don't see myself in this.
It's probably what we debate the most when we have to do something together, is what Quirk and Rescue is, what that needs to look like for it. I think we probably but we debated it much more in the early days than we do now in terms of what it should look like, because we've kind of found what our sort of elements are within that.
You have a common ground, you have an intersection,
yes,
which helps
exactly.
you
a Venn diagram. We
Yeah.
there's a lot, the center of the diagram is quite big, but then we have our own separate
I
things.
think you're probably the person out of the two of us that adds a new element in that we kind of have to think about and discuss. Out of everything, if we do, well, certainly from my point of view, we tend to look at stuff that's in the past.
It's the only place you can look.
Well,
The future
yes.
hasn't happened.
Okay, all right. But I mean, like, not contemporary, not right now.
No,
not this minute.
yeah.
I've really got into a lot of 60s and 70s film magazines recently, and their covers and the way they use typography and design. So I'm sure that's probably going to come out in some element at some point. And there's a lot of black and white photography in that. Sorry to scare you.
Jason's prints, like sort of punk, you could say, protest punk, that's the era that we both grew up in the 70s. And that was around at the time, sort of seeps into you, the things you see around you.
So in Miss Pink Interiors, you use a lot of patterns and geometry as well.
Yeah. I've been lucky enough in a couple of commercial projects that I've done that. One of them was a perfume shop for a London perfume brand, and he wanted neon shelving, which was brilliant. I got some custom made. It looks amazing.
You also had recently the pop-up shop.
Yeah, that is really close to my heart
Mohawk.
because that's the era I grew up in. I was punk. You could say I still am a punk, just an aging punk.
So you're both punks.
Well, Jason was more sort of art school,
Post-punk.
post-punk. Yeah, he's a bit younger than me. Not that
Not much.
Not much, but a bit.
A year and a half.
Yeah, so that project was really good because I got some giant 5-foot safety pins. I got these fabricated and I got to keep them after the project. So I've had one sprayed red, actually, not pink.
Which is now adorning our kitchen.
Which is now in our own kitchen. Yeah, I love the safety pin image. It's just, for me, it's quite iconic. Reminds me of that time when I was younger. So the projects I've done, I've been immersed in 100%.
Probably the thing that we worry about the most, really, silly, is like we're not trend followers. We do what we want to do. And I think the first time we went to New York, we'd done a lot of geometric wallpaper.
Sort of fed into the Memphis Milano sort of
and
Mondrian-esque type colours.
because we liked it and we weren't seeing any of it. And then somebody from the Wall Street Journal went around this massive trade show that we were at and noticed that there were 5 stands out of maybe 2,000 that had geometric sort of wallpapers or prints. And they went, oh, that's the new
This
trend.
is the trend.
It's sort of like, no, it's not. I have no idea what you're talking about. We just did this because we like it. And just because you've seen 5 things that have some connection, now it's a trend. And we're going, no, it's not. And so to us, that really echoed with us how empty that sort of trend label actually is. It's just another marketing tool. Homeowners, they don't buy things because they're trends. I think you and I have different approaches to that, though. You do look at a lot of stuff and other designers and other periods, and I tend not to when I'm doing stuff because I don't want that in my head when we're doing the base design, because I'll do a lot of the base design and then you'll tell me what's wrong with it. I don't like to look around a lot because then I'm just thinking, I can't do it that way.
It's like a noise and you can't really focus.
Yeah, if I do it and it's come out of my own head, then I'm not worried if it looks like somebody else's to a degree. But if I know about everybody else's, I'm not saying that I ignore it completely, but to the extent that you keep up to date on that.
But it's just like a big, huge washing machine spin cycle. Things go round, come round, they come round, and then there's a slight different take on them. There's only an finite amount of colours and designs. It's rare you see anything absolutely new. It's always been influenced by something.
Yes. Is there one project or product that you work together on Quirk and Rescue and that 100% Tania and Jason, and it represents you both?
Oh, that's a very good question.
I don't think so.
I think it always skews a little bit one way
or the other.
I don't think it really matters who put more in or less in. Whenever we do it, it's sort of like, well, we both put equally into the design. Neither one of us would dream of sort of saying, well, that's going out there if the other person didn't feel
like
the same way.
Yeah.
It's
there
sort
has
of
to
like,
be an agreement.
And we are perfectionists in that sense as well. We do have to put the brakes on ourselves sometimes when we're saying, no, it's not going out. One of us will invariably say, look, are we being too perfectionist? And so sometimes there's a point where you kind of have to cut off and go, okay, is it good enough? The diamond wallpaper is probably the closest, but probably the second or third generation of colorways that we did for it.
Yeah, one of the wallpapers we have is very graphic diamond based on some 1920s.
No, 1800s.
1800s.
Optical illusions.
19th century.
And
we started off just with 3 colorways, but we've added more I guess would be considered more modern. So we've got a pink and red colourway, which we actually have in our own living room, and a black and white, which is it's very stark, but it's very graphic. It's very lovely. A graphic designer in New York bought some actually and has it in her apartment. Yeah, but that's the good thing about having a design and having the means to change it digitally. You've got the design and you can just create these new colourways. It doesn't take long at all.
I think we're happy on all their designs.
We get there in the end.
Just trying to think of something that we could really say was both us.
How about your own home?
Yeah.
I think one thing that people say when they see photos of where we live is, oh, I really like it, but I could never live there. It's way too bright. And I think it's not actually that bright. Not when you get to the evening and that, you're turning on your sort of more subtle lighting and stuff. It's actually really, really cozy and really, really warm.
But we don't have any black in our own household.
I'm just thinking that.
Yeah, because I said no. The thing says no.
Have I snuck any black into the house?
No,
probably not. Oh no, we did have a black plant pot. It was black and neon yellow.
Oh yeah, it had the neon. You see, to offset the black.
But some
black alone wasn't allowed.
Some black did sneak into the house.
So it's a balance. You have the neon if you have the
yeah. But we both like stripes.
But we'd like to do odd things with stripes.
Make it slightly asymmetric.
Traditionally, with stripes, they'd pretty much be vertical up and down to make a room look taller. I think the first time you got stripes in the house was the living room floor, wasn't it? And you said, I want to do the floor stripy. But I don't want it to look like everybody else.
Didn't want to follow the floorboards.
I just casually offhand, I think I said, I'll do it diagonally then.
Yeah.
And because I had to take all of the boys on holiday for a week for this to happen.
Yeah.
I took them away and then you came back and you'd done the sword, which was great.
But the cats were still there. So it was still kind of tricky. The boys were away, but the cats were there. So there's, some fossilised cat hair in there that will remain there for.
But I remember you sort of saying things like, oh, it's really difficult getting the stripes to be the same width. And I just thought, well, you just cut a template. And you went, I wish you told me that a week ago because I was measuring them.
So much work.
It's only been done
twice. It was grey and pink. And then I was like, why the hell have we got grey in here? So I redid it a couple of years ago, red and pink.
Red and pink.
The red came in. The red is like...
Yeah.
I think it's clever because mostly when people design their home, they don't think about flooring or they don't put colours into flooring.
And also the ceiling.
Yeah.
I think our favourite thing in there is the wallpapered ceiling, actually. I mean, the floor's really great, but it's sort of like you don't see many wallpapered
It's quite like a cuddle. It's very embracing.
In a little nook.
Yes.
But it's also a nice surprise as well. I think when we had some friends of ours around and said, oh, you've re-wallpapered. You see them looking at the wall and they go, wow. It's an unexpected thing unless you're looking,
We didn't do that ourselves though. We got a specialist in wallpaper because
too high a ceiling.
Yeah, the ceiling would have just been too tricky.
Yeah, it's hard.
For amateurs. Yeah. Wallpaper is not my fault.
For me, it's mostly my husband because he's very tall. But I can't.
My mum was really good at wallpapering, but the gene did not pass down to me. Unfortunately, I'm not very good at wallpapering.
And before it was even harder, the wallpapering, because you had
to put the paste.
Yeah.
We have a lot of art in our house as well, and we agree on that. We both agree on what sort of things we like. I know there's a few things that you probably like less than I do, but Tam tends to fall out of love with things after a number of years, because you need a little bit more energy in terms of those things. I mean, I don't disagree.
Was it a challenge at first collaborating together and having different style or different color choices?
Well, there's been some moments.
There were some times at the beginning where we did some designs and we had a lot of colorways. We wanted 4 colorways and I think we ended up with 47. And it was like just trying to pare it down. And I think there was some very tense moments around the kitchen table with all of these colorways printed out. And both of us going, we just need to pick 4.
Yeah.
Which 4? And they've got to make sense together. And we did. But at the end of it, I don't think you or I were particularly happy with the 4 that we ended up choosing.
No, but anyway, we live and learn.
What we did after that is we really learned how to restrict our colour palette. So we got very, very tight and we picked colour palettes that was for specific things and specific designs, but we were very, very narrow on those colour palettes. I think we've added a little bit, but we've got like a favourite sort of range of colours now, which that's made it a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you won't see any blue or green in our designs.
Well, not
They always
anymore.
like the
We
warm,
did.
the warm. Yeah, we did have some, but yeah, much more of
But
a
I think-
warmer colour palette.
But I think sometimes as well, we've learned from experience that, you know, colours that we have in our heads, or sometimes colours you see on the screen, you can't always get it to look like that on a material. You know, and there's certain colours. Like, I mean, I know you really like lilac. I'm not so keen on lilac, but I do appreciate it in terms of a design sense. But it's a really hard colour to get right. It's the same
because
as
it's either
a
too pink or too
purple
blue.
or an orange. For whatever reason, they're really hard colours to get just so.
But I know you're familiar with Yes Colours. Their colours are amazing. They've got a really good lilac and a really good red. We are able to get good colours now.
Yeah, those colors are vibrant.
They're just really strong and pure, and the quality is brilliant.
What advice could you give the listeners if they want to design a space with their partner or with someone from their family?
Move out into a separate place. Have your own zones that you design one, and I think that's really difficult, and it depends on the relationship.
You have to do what you said earlier. Is probably. I mean, I wish we'd done it actually. Make a Venn diagram. You know, you make a list of all the things that you like, and they make a list of things
and see where there's common ground.
See where there's common ground.
Yeah, that's
the easiest way of actually doing it. That'll prevent you're always going to end up arguing or heavily debating.
Or there's always somebody that maybe feels a bit stronger than the partner, and the partner's like, okay, I'll leave it to you.
But you know, there has to be
a bit of common ground,
and there has to be a little bit of compromise as well at times, because you know, you have to ask yourself sometimes, am I really that invested in not having lilac at all in this house? Or can I, you know, and you just go, no, it's okay, as long as it's not everywhere. I don't think I could live with it everywhere. If it's a little touch here and a little touch there, that's fine. But agree on your colours as soon as possible. I think that's the easiest thing as well to do. At the end of the day, it has to be a home for all of you, a home sort of together. It's like, for instance, we don't decorate the children's bedrooms.
No, they just leave that.
I mean, we do decorate them, but they get to choose. Because at the end of the day, that's the room there, you know, where they want to spend time in, and it's sort of like it's their room.
And they're also growing, so depending on their age,
exactly.
And you have to think about practicalities there as well. There's certain spaces that we've mapped out as like, these are ours, kids. You know, it's going to be this.
They all love their home. They all love it.
Well, they always say as well, don't they, when they brought friends round?
They're proud.
Their friends are always like...
Wow. Or rather, when they go to the friend's house, they're like, I didn't realise other people didn't have so much colour. So yeah, they appreciate it.
My partner has a very methodical mind, so I every time have to prepare the presentation. This is the colours that maybe we can go with. Do you have a preference?
And this is the very tiny feedback form I've given you at the end.
Is there a favourite room for each of you?
The kitchen for me, yeah. I'm not that keen on cooking, to be honest, and kitchens always tend to be, you know, functional. The job is to cook in there. So it's nice to have some art in there, some colour, some other things to look at that aren't used in the kitchen. You know, traditional kitchen things. Got some display shelves there that just have beautiful things on them that don't get used, but they're beautiful to look at. And it's got some artwork in there, some really old 80s original sort of ceramics. They're just beautiful to look at. I don't use them, but I just like looking at them.
I like the kitchen as well. I mean, I like the living room.
And the living room.
But the living room has been a real evolution. That's like a 15-year evolution from what it was originally to where it is now. Yeah.
When you live somewhere, and like your trip to Brazil, you come back renewed, thinking, actually, I want to change something. So there are parts that have been changed along the way.
I really like the kitchen as well, but for a different reason, which is it's probably one of the spaces it didn't evolve as such. We really did sit down and plan it and design it, and it's had a few tweaks since we put it in, but in terms of a space, for the space that we had, it works really, really well, and it's really, really colourful, and it's really fun to be in. You know, kitchens tend to be the centre of most homes. I find it a much better place to cook in than it was before, and it's just a nice place to sit, and it's warm and it's welcoming. And in our house, it's the first room you come into. So it is a wow room. It's probably not as much as wow as the living room, but I think it builds you up gently.
When you design your home, did you plan each room when you first designed it?
No, it was more you have things in your head that you want to do, but until you live in the space, and ideas are quite fluid, they might change. At one point, we had a very, very, almost call it royal purple fireplace. And then we just both ended up, I don't like this purple fireplace anymore. Let's not have this purple fireplace. So things do sort of change after we've lived with them for a bit. For me personally, it's quite hard to plan it. It's different with a commercial space because you're going straight in and it's kind of got a function. But with the residential space, with the home, it's almost got more soul. So you're sort of feeling along.
I think though, in terms of that though, we change things that are painted way more often.
Yeah, because it's easy.
Because
it's easy with paintwork. Change.
Yeah. If we're putting wallpaper up, we really are certain that's the wallpaper
different.
that we want. But I don't think the fireplace is not getting changed again. I think we're happy now. Did you say not yet?
You're right. This is really important to consider a space not just as four walls and that's it. And it's really a living space, and it really depends on how the person is living in it, because we all have different habits.
And living somewhere and doing something that ends up being a mistake is actually a good thing, because it helps you narrow down what you do want. Yeah. Once you know what you definitely don't want or definitely don't like, it goes back to that really common advice in the interiors world. It's only paint it, live with it. And if you don't like it, just use another color that makes you feel better, that you do like.
So when I'm working with clients, every time I'm asking the question, what color do you like? Or what color do you dislike? People know exactly what they hate. But what they like is like...
It's harder. And also it's a bit more complicated than that, isn't it? Because it's often a combination of things. Because I can't envisage nowadays a room just being one colour. Minimum 2, probably 3, in order to build up those sorts of zones, that difference, that interest, to make it an interesting space.
Yeah, and also with the shapes, you don't have to paint the whole wall.
Absolutely.
I have clients that tell me, I'm worried about getting bored of this color, and what if you had shapes or patterns, or it keeps it interesting.
And that is so easy to do.
You have to consider the whole volume.
Yeah.
Stairways and hallways quite often tend to be forgotten because you go from A to B, so they're usually just places that are getting you somewhere, rather you're not generally sitting in a hallway. So we made our hallway stairs, a part of the design, joining the kitchen to the living room. The stairs are pink and yellow. They could have just been forgotten, but they're part of it. You come out the kitchen and you look up the stairs, so why would you not want to use that space in a way that you have done with the other rooms?
You can also have a kind of gallery. Before moving in here, I have a hallway that was very long, 10 meters long actually.
Wow. That's not a hallway, that's a corridor.
And very narrow, 1 meter, 1 meter 5, and all white, so it felt very cold and even longer.
Like a hospital.
Yeah. So my idea was to paint the back wall and the front wall, so to use this optical illusion to make them shorter, and then have a gallery in between with a lot of different lines to keep it also interesting. Because you're walking for 10 meters, you have to get entertained.
Absolutely. Okay. Don't think there's many walls in our house now that haven't got something on them.
Yeah.
And that's probably a problem, because that means we can't buy some new things that we like to put on there, or we do, and then they go into a drawer and we're thinking, when is this going to happen?
On the ceiling?
Haven't quite got that.
Or it's a good opportunity to look around what you've got and to see if you still love everything as much. And there are a couple of things on the hallway sort of gallery wall that I don't love as much now. So kind of got an eye out for a replacement, but not actively looking for something. But when something comes, I'll know.
Because you like to go, for example, in second-hand shop or something that has a soul. And
you just don't know when something will appear. Quite often when you're looking for something, you just can't find it. So you just have to wait.
You're looking for something very specific, and you can't find it.
Only you can see it in here. You just can't see it anywhere else.
I think I went through a phase of collecting 1980s Eastern Bloc digital telephones, and they were really sort of like, you didn't see those designs in England. And
they're quite blocky.
Yeah, they were quite nice. And I go, we need to make a display shelf
for telephones, but it was just, it
never quite came off.
If we ever moved to a bigger place,
there'd be a wall of telephones.
They're black and red, and they're just they're quite clunky.
Like the big thing.
Yeah. But it was just sort of like, I've got...
They're antiques now.
Yeah.
Really.
I think we've come to the end of our discussion. You have an Instagram account where our listeners can contact you, right?
Yeah, at Quirk and Rescue.
Mr. Blank Prints.
Separate Instagram.
But you can contact us through, we've got websites, quirkandrescue.com, misspink.co.uk.
.com.uk, it's all confusing. Quirk and Rescue on Instagram will take you everywhere else.
MrBlackPrints.com.
Yeah.
You're everywhere. It has been a pleasure.
It's been lovely. Thank you. And your home is beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us on this colorful adventure. Keep trusting your intuitions and remember, your home is your canvas, so just paint it happy. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, don't hesitate to subscribe, rate, or review on the different listening platforms. To say hello and get all the latest from me, you can follow me on Instagram at rainbow.shaker. And if you want to check out my services, you can go to my website, www.rainbowshaker.com. Thanks again, and I wish you all a very colorful day. See you next time!